Now, have you ever imagined life without Ray Martin? Well, it turns out Ray has.
He's not in the box, is he?
In his new documentary, The Last Goodbye, Ray sets out to look at the subject of mortality, including his own.
We are gathered here today to pay respect to one of our nation's finest storytellers.
Hang on, Reverend, I'm not dead yet. Touch wood. But statistically speaking, given my age, the clock is ticking and I've got 4 years to go.
Well, thankfully, he's still here. Would you please welcome Ray Martin? You have got plenty of good years left in you. Why this sudden fascination with death?
Yeah, well, BBC asked me to do it, and I thought it's something that Di and I haven't thought about. We obviously should, in terms of how we want to go and who we want to lie about us and what music you want. And so it seemed to be, as a journalist, it seemed to be a good idea to look at death. It's almost the last taboo. You know, when I was a kid, I mentioned in the piece that my grandmother died up in Gunnedah in country New South Wales, and I was about 7. And off to one side we sat. There was in the parlour, the funeral parlour of their grandmother was stretched out by my mum and the other women who had prepared grandma. And we were expected to go across and sort of touch grandma on the forehead. That was the sort of last goodbye. And we don't do that anymore. It's almost certain cultures, with the Chinese are much better at it than Anglo-Irish Australians. So we've looked at Samoan and Jewish and Islamic. The Islamic farewell are beautiful, simply beautiful.
So now that you've made the documentary, have you gone and planned your own funeral? And what can we expect from what I imagine would be a state funeral, I imagine, for you, Ray?
It won't be that. I'm not going to tell you, Michael. No, obviously you've got to watch the series, but we went from, basically I'm a bit of a lapsed Catholic, and I thought, I believe it was dust to dust, and yet I know too many people who are much more intelligent than me, who believe in a spirit world and believe in an afterlife and believe in heaven and hell. And the great religions of the world all believe in the spirit world, and I find it intellectually arrogant to say you're wrong and I'm right in that. So we went out to try and see, what do people think and what Australians think. Most Australians believe in ghosts, for example. Well, you can't believe in ghosts if you don't believe in spirits. And so it was really, as a journalist, I found it really intriguing to see the way the Samoans, like a 3-day Samoan funeral, is beautiful. And they sing like the Welsh. They sing beautifully, unlike me.
And they bury their dead in the front yard, don't they?
They can. They can, yeah. But here,
you mentioned that it's not something you'd really talked about in your own life. You are a master communicator. You've made a whole career out of it. Was it something that you didn't feel comfortable talking about, or had it just never come up, or you just...
Yeah, I guess the old Woody Allen line of "I'm not scared of death, I just don't want to be there when it happens." and that's pretty much me, mate. I guess denial, because I've got a 7-year-old grandson, Arlo, and I've told him I'm going to be there for his 21st, so I've got a way to go. And I did a lot of shows with David Attenborough. I did about 30 live shows with David Attenborough, who's now 97, and he's my sort of role model. Yeah. I think I'm not going anywhere. It's one of those.
You kind of looked at the flip side of all of this as well, because there's a big industry booming now in people trying to live forever or preserve themselves forever. Does any of that, the sort of cryogenic freezing, does that excite you?
No, it doesn't excite me.
I mean, you could be presenting television in 50 years' time.
What a terrible thought. What a shocking thought. But we asked the question of that, because what do you do with your will? If you've given the kids all the money and you come back, where's your money? But no, I mean, it's $150,000 for the cryogenic funeral in Australia, if you like, $150,000 a head, on the off chance that you may come back in 100 years' time. To what? No, it doesn't appeal to me.
Yeah, I feel like I'm tired already, Ray. Hey, you've worked in a bunch of newsrooms. You know what the obit shelf is all about, don't you? Knowing that there's possibly going to be your obituary sitting on a shelf in a television newsroom sometime soon. Not that soon, but in 4 years' time. Does that freak you out?
It does a bit. I guess that I've done them for other people. Yeah. I was asked to do one for Brian Henderson. Quite a while ago. So I guess they are there because, you never know, it could happen tomorrow. And so you've got to have them ready. But it doesn't freak me out. I'm intrigued. I like the old Hunter S. Thompson line about, going to the grave on a Harley and screaming in there and having dirt everywhere and saying, wow, what a journey.
Is there something that you'd like in your obit package that airs in the distant future?
That's what... basically, the subtitle is Ray Martin plans his own funeral. But I can't tell you what I plan. The mystery's there, Sarah.
Do you feel like you've learnt a lot through this process? Because actually being faced with this sort of stuff and talking about your own death, you take something away from it.
We're such a multicultural society. It reminded me, my background is Anglo-Irish, and to look at the way, as I mentioned, the Samoans, or the way the Islamic people view it, the attitude towards cremation as against burial, the cost of one coffin was $64,000 now. Some marble Chinese are best at the money they spend.
Not my family, cardboard box.
Are you scared? Are you scared of
No, not at all. I mean, I'd sooner stay. I'm in denial. I'd sooner be here for the next... I mean, I think the place is going to be an amazing place in 50 years' time or 100 years' time. I'd love to be here.
What about a Ray Martin hologram? Still presenting telly in 50 years.
The Last Goodbye premieres this week on SBS and SBS On Demand. Please thank Ray Martin.